The closest I ever thought I would get to Hawaii is listening to the Beach Boys and having some tiki drinks. But Erin's best friend was getting married on Maui and she really wanted me to go with her. Said I don't have the time or money for that, but we did find a way to make it work. Our trip was divided up into two different parts. We drove straight from the airport on the road to Hana to Waianapanapa State Park, where we stayed in a fairly rustic cabin. This part of the trip did not have any bike riding, and I would not have wanted it to. The road to Hana is absolutely stunning, but also a harrowing drive. It's about a lane and a half at best in most places. Almost all the bridges are only one lane, and it is just blind curve after blind curve. So even though the main part is only 36 miles long, it takes hours to drive. And the people driving it are either the locals who know how to drive it well and seem to be going a little too fast, or tourists who are trying to look at waterfalls. This is also the rainforest part of the island in the rainy season. So we did some amazing hikes, visited some absolutely beautiful beaches, and waited out some of the rainstorms with some good drinks. So after a couple days here, we took our time driving back across the island to Kihei, Maui. This is where we'd be the rest of the week, where the wedding would take place, and where we would pick up our bike rentals. So before we left for the trip, we were trying to decide on how to rent bikes, how long we'd want them for, what days we'd want them, and all that. And Erin finally said, why don't we just rent bikes for the full week? Kihei is a little more resorty and built up, so she was also saying just getting around town and stuff would be better on bikes anyways. And then she looked at me and said, and I'm sure you're also going to want to ride it all the time and make content. It seemed like there were really only 3 types of bike rentals on the islands: full suspension mountain bikes for riding on the volcano, townie bikes, or road bikes. So we opted for the road bikes. We went with some aluminum Trek Domanis with 8-speed Claris from South Maui Bicycles. These are about the cheapest you could get, though there are plenty of carbon things available if you want to try and beat Phil Gaiman's KOM up Haleakala. I opted to ride to dinner in the drizzle. Erin did not, which turned out to be good because it ended up pouring most of the night and she was able to put the bike in the rental car and I didn't have to ride in the pouring rain. Maui has all these food truck parks, from your typical food trucks around a parking lot to beautiful garden complex, more permanent things. In the morning, Erin said we weren't going to ride to get coffee, but we were going to walk the beach to get coffee and then make the bike plans while we were there. We realized on the walk you can see the humpback whales that summer in Maui right from the beach. And I know there's all the memes about getting older and becoming a bird watcher, but let me tell you, whale watching is next level joy. Position on these bikes is interesting. I feel back, like I'm not like way up over the front of the bike like I feel on my vintage road bikes. I don't know if it's the geometry of this or the way I have the saddle set up, but I kind of like it. Definitely twitchy in the front. I'm used to my gravel bikes, but... So we decided we would head as far south as you really can along the coast from our condo. We would head down to La Perouse Bay, which is in a state park, and then we would turn around and find some lunch somewhere down south on the way back, and then also a beach to go swimming at. It would be about a 20-mile round trip. Erin made a route that kind of had us on the road where you could see there's pretty good bike infrastructure, but then we would hop off on the parallel residential streets when we had the chance to. As good as the bike infrastructure is here, it sure seems like some really regularly timed buses or even light rail on this strip would make so much sense. You have to assume 75% of these drivers are just going to the beach they want to go to, or the store or restaurant, which are all within a couple blocks of the main road, and the traffic is just non-stop. If you're from the mainland, you'll definitely feel at home because this is just like the States, a bunch of unnecessary driving. I am so glad we ride bikes. The bike shop was really great about installing our flat pedals for us. There was no roadie snark or anything like that at all, which, you never know. And then also, we brought our own bike bags, our Swift catalysts. We brought our own light mounts and our Wahoos and Wahoo mounts and all that thing. When we had ridden the bikes back from the bike shop and got to the condo is when we adjusted the saddle tilt and saddle height and installed all our own other stuff on the bikes. The only real issue I had with the bikes is how skinny the tires are. These bikes look like they can easily clear 32s, which would have been a lot more comfortable and still more narrow than I normally ride. But yeah, these are hard 28s, kind of unnecessary. Erin's not crazy about 2x anymore, but I felt right at home on Shimano 2x. Claire's definitely has a clunk to the shifting, but it still worked fine. It was crisp and whatever. It's not as smooth as even 9-speed 105 or anything like that, but no big deal. The brakes worked absolutely fine. I didn't look at exactly what they were, but you could lock them up if you needed to. They had enough modulation. Rim brakes are still fine brakes. Here the route cuts inland for a little bit through the South Maui lava fields. It's a stunning otherworldly landscape. And off to your left is the 10,000-foot volcano Haleakala. Really, really cool. But the road conditions get worse and worse, and this is where the 28 mil really tough tires did not feel the greatest. Hawaiian ground grass. So this was our turnaround location. As you've probably noticed, there's water on the ground in spots, and you'll even see rain off in the distance. It's funny, when you look up things to do in Maui when it's raining, one of the suggestions is actually drive somewhere else it's probably not raining there. Our weather apps and the radar looked absolutely crazy on Maui, like I've never seen it anywhere else. It's just, I think, completely unpredictable. It was never actually accurate in any way. From what I understand, though, rain would be extremely unlikely on this side of the island in summertime. We decided to stop for lunch at Lahaina Brewing. It was on Erin's list. Timing turned out to be perfect because it did start raining while we were here. The food and the beer were absolutely fantastic, so it was a great spot. We waited out the rain there, and then we picked a beach to ride to go for a swim. We locked our bikes up by the lifeguard station, we changed our clothes in the public bathrooms, and then we went in the water. There were actually enough waves here to body surf. I couldn't believe it. That's what I tried to capture with some of these clips that just looks like splashing water. But it's usually the north shore of Maui where you get the really good surfing waves, and that's where most people are doing that, even though there are some beaches where beginners learn to surf on this side of the island. Erin's front derailleur cable actually pulled out of the clamp. We happened to be right by the bike shop, but it was Sunday and they weren't open. I was able to fix it so it didn't turn out to be a big deal. Just took a little bit of finagling and we were back on the road. Erin had decided to call it a day on the riding. There was still a few hours of daylight left, so I decided to keep going for a little bit. I hopped out on this bike trail that runs about 10 miles to the main town of Kahului, where the airport and everything like that is. It's something I was thinking I would want to check out later in the week, but I just rode a few miles of it. It seems like the land here off to the left must be what used to be some of the sugarcane plantations. There's lots of abandoned buildings, abandoned cars, all kinds of stuff. I drove back here for a little bit to check some of it out and take some photos. I had switched directions here, heading towards the other volcano on Maui. I wanted to check out this road a little bit because there was going to be a dinner out on the Hana one night, and it would be in this direction, so there was a nice big shoulder. This whole area is a bird sanctuary, which was kind of neat too, so I rode a few miles in that direction before turning around. Lahaina is about 20 miles away. That's where all the wildfires and everything like that were. So I ended up with about 40 miles on the day. The Strava route is linked below. This was pretty much a perfect day, and I'm glad it was for reasons you're probably already hearing in my voice. When we woke up the next morning, I was not feeling great. It rained through most of the early morning. I finally decided let's go for a walk. I was really going downhill fast. Erin's like, hey, we've already walked this far. Why don't we walk to where that really good tiki bar was? I was trying to put on a good face. I had a Mai Tai, and I had my last meal until the day we would be leaving.
Oh my gosh, we need to get it. Babe. We need to find the drug run.
When we got home, I passed out into bed. I had the chills. I felt achy. It was absolutely awful. We were supposed to have the rehearsal dinner thing that night. Erin went there in Lahaina. I dragged myself out of bed to get over to watch the sunset and do some whale watching, but it was all I could do. That night was one of the worst nights of my life, just absolutely as bad as I've ever had the flu. The next day we went over to the bird sanctuary. Basically what I would do is I would take some ibuprofen. I could get myself going for a little while. I could try and have some good humor, do some whale watching again, and then I would just need to get back to the room and go into bed and pass completely out. On this day we decided to do the drive up Haleakala. We did a couple little hikes, and I could barely breathe. I could barely walk. I was doing everything I could to keep it together. It's one of the most stunning things you've ever seen. Here's the volcano crater. I had the chills. It took all my mental effort just to pull my camera out of the camera bag. I was doing what I could, but it was tough. When we climbed up to the main observatory, it might have been like 20 steps or something like that. I literally felt like I was going to pass out. One of my goals originally had been to maybe try and climb the mountain. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I think it took me more mental effort and fortitude to spend the day in the car going up Haleakala than it would have a healthy Tim to climb that 10,000 feet on his bicycle. So the last morning, Erin was talking about how to load the bikes into the rental car, and I said, no, let's go ride and get some coffee, and then we'll drop them off and walk the beach on the way back. I did think I was feeling a little bit better. I do have to say, any little rise in the road, I did feel like I was on one of those hairpins on the volcano. I was definitely not 100%. I had very low energy. I could barely keep up with Erin, even when she was riding really easy. She had come up with a new route that we had not gone on at all. Not that I got to ride my bike that much, as you've just seen, but she thought this was bike path, but it clearly isn't finished yet, so we got a little more bonus Hawaii grav. I was actually able to eat a solid breakfast on this ride, which was really nice. I had mostly just been eating fruit that we had picked up in Hana, some of these little apple bananas that were amazing, and oranges, but I had not had a real meal for days. The long journey home that started this evening was absolutely awful for me, and when I got home, I spent 2 days completely in bed, which just proves how much effort I was putting into getting the most I could out of being in Maui with the flu. So yes, there's no way to put a total positive spin on it. I wanted to ride bikes more. We wanted to go kayaking and get closer to the whales. I wanted to swim every day. The water in Maui is nice and warm. But it really just is a case of it is what it is. At least half the people in the wedding group got sick too, including the bride. So yeah, that's just how it goes. So a couple side notes on the trip. One app we used when we drove the road to Hana and up the mountain Haleakala was this app called Shaka Guides. Shaka is the hand symbol that we would associate with hang loose on the mainland. And it's GPS driven, so it's really cool giving you really practical information of what to see and where to turn, but also a lot of history. It was really cool. We felt it was worth the money. I think it was like $20 or something like that. And a note on the history, I do feel that you need to be a little bit respectful, or a lot respectful, when you visit places like Hawaii. Hawaii was an independent sovereign kingdom that was completely illegally overthrown by this country, and that is admitted even by our federal government now, even though they didn't do anything to change anything about it. You're a visitor. You're not stuck in traffic. You are the traffic. Have respect for the culture. Get out of the way of the locals, especially on the road to Hana. Pull over. Let them pass. We spent the last couple hours we had in Hawaii at a few of the different beaches on the North Shore, not too far from the airport. And then it was the long, painful trip back to Ohio. Kind of a cool side note, our bartender at the airport was actually raised in Chillicothe, Ohio. He has a Hawaiian mom, which is why he's back here now. And that made for a fascinating conversation. Thanks as always for watching. I am going to have some photography related Hawaii content on my other channel, which I'll link to on the end screen, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.